Before this video properly begins, I do just want to say there's going to be differences in audio quality. Some of my voice lines have been recorded at daytime, and I've had to sort of raise my voice to get it over my brother and cousin screaming away playing video games in the background. Or it's been 1 in the morning, like it is when I'm recording this one, where I've been trying to keep my voice down a little bit so my family can sleep. I generally like doing my internet stuff at night because it's when I can hang out with a lot of my online friends who aren't on when I'm up and about in the daytime. So with that out of the way, just know there are going to be differences in the audio quality. My voice is fucking awful to begin with, so there's going to be that. So thank you for putting up with me. I'm going to begin this by saying the following. I'm not a hardcore Thomas fan, I'm not a horror game enthusiast. But having seen the praise this game has received and being recommended it by my boyfriend, I felt it was worth a look. Also, I know this isn't the kind of content you usually expect from me. I'm not experimenting with a new channel format, this isn't going to become a gaming channel. I will be making more model train content when I have more projects finished and when I can be asked to get photos and videos for the streamlined castle. I just wanted to make this for how laughably bad this game is, and connections I've made to it and another game that I've played before. Right, let's begin. After playing through this game twice, I can give you 2 stories. The short, it's bad. I was able to complete it in about 36 minutes, whereas some people have been taking up to about an hour. I know it's possible to go faster. The long story, I think we should look into what this actually is about. It should go without saying, there will be spoilers, so if you want to play this blind, then click off this video. If you don't care about spoilers or you already played, then just keep watching. Thomas Adventure is a Roblox Thomas the Tank Engine alternate reality horror game. Seems to have been open towards the end of 2025, at least that's when I've seen the popularity of it pick up, but apparently uses an old game slot from 2016, which is not an uncommon practice among Roblox developers. It looks to have been based upon a cancelled PlayStation 2 game, which, minus the horror elements, likely would have revolved around a similar premise of you playing as Thomas, helping the other engines and people of Sodor. So let's jump right into this. Before entering the game, there's a selection of characters who get an introduction. Thomas, Gordon, Henry, which is misspelled as Henry, James, Molly, Bertie, and 1. You meet the Fat Controller and another insignificant character named Angus once you actually begin the game. The opening dialogue with the Fat Controller seems to follow the general public's view of him, a dictator who abuses his trains, making comments that you should not talk to his other engines, and that despite having an inventory, you need to keep your footplate nice and clean. All this advice from Topham is immediately ignored when you drive to Coldie Fell and meet Gordon, who tells you to help him and the other engines dot around the map instead of listening to the Fat Controller's words. The tasks for helping the other engines are as follows. Gordon does not need help. James wants you to race him. Henry needs his special coal. Bertie needs his missing components, a spark plug, nameplate, alternator, and carburetor. And Molly needs you to shut off the power at the carnival because the music is too loud and the lights too bright. Why she doesn't just drive away, I don't know. If you're looking to speedrun the game, I advise this. First, there is a way to get a red Thomas, which I believe does have a higher top speed. I haven't figured out how to get it, so if anyone does know, sound off in the comments. But my boyfriend has used it, and apparently, despite being faster, its speed will eventually drop during the final sequence of the 3D portion of the game. Other than that, here is my guide to speedrunning Thomas Adventure. After meeting Sir Topham Hatt, go and see Gordon. He'll give you the rundown of what's happening with helping the other engines escape Sodor. Then continue forward to the flower field, pick up Bertie's spark plug, and then turn right to go meet Molly at the fun fair. Then talk to her to start her mission. She'll give you the code 1337 and tell you to go to the old shed to shut the power off. Reverse past Coldie Fell to the first switch past the tunnel, turn left and go to the old shed. Enter the code that Molly gives you and pick up Bertie's nameplate. Angus is also here, but he doesn't add anything to the story, so it's not really worth talking to him. Reverse to the second switch past the tunnel, which will be around where you talk to Sir Topham Hatt. Turn left again, and this will take you to a cluster of switches. Keep left and then reverse down the branch line, which takes you to Percy's station, where you pick up Bertie's alternator and a truck labelled Best Coal, which you need to deliver to Henry. Continue forward and meet James, then race him, which completes his mission and will be the first one that you fully complete. Following this, keep left on all tracks following and go to Henry's tunnel. Speak to Henry and take note of the sentence, "It feels nice to be nice." Then back down his tunnel to give him his truck, also pick up Birdie's carburetor. Then speak to Henry again, completing his mission, and continue forward to the last section where you meet Bertie. Speak to him, give him his components, speak to him again to complete his mission before reversing back down the line, keeping left at all switches until you return to the flower field. Having reversed all the way back to where you initially started, turn right and go back to the fun fair to tell Molly that it's all okay and finish her mission. Then return to Corgeh Fell. There's no real way to speedrun the rest of the game besides being quick and knowing what you need to do. After completing this first portion, you'll notice that Gordon has gone missing from Corgeh Fell, and a previously blocked off line is finally accessible, allowing you to begin the climb up Corgeh Fell. First, exiting the tunnel, you will meet Gordon, who again gives you the rundown of what exactly lies ahead, followed by a blocked off tunnel which requires you to realign a set of statues to open up the path. Exiting this tunnel, you will now be greeted by Henry, who tells you about the corrupted railway lines and how to restore them by shunting trucks. This eventually leads you up the mountain further to a plain white room where you'll be chased down by one. If you want to save some time here, just begin reversing once the music starts playing. This does mean that when you get to the point and click area though, you do need to put up with the knockoff Sonic music for a little bit. The point and click area presents 3 zones to travel to. Starting at 4 towers in a field, you can follow a little dirt path to reach an abandoned rail yard, which contains a scrapped Shay and I think a Lancashire and Yorkshire 27 or 28, but this doesn't really give you any hints to the following area and it's not really important. I didn't go there on this run, but I have visited previously, so I will put some screenshots up. You eventually reach a fork in the road, leading you down 2 paths. Left leads you to a warehouse with a blue console at the centre. Remember what I said to take note of the phrase, "It feels nice to be nice"? You need to enter that into this console to actually get the good ending. Note this area is incredibly buggy. It took me a lot of head scratching to actually get here on my first run, because the clickers are off the side of the point and click area. Return to the fork in the road after this, and then turn right. This will lead you to a house, the final point in the game. It gives you a warning about hostilities in the preceding area, but the one jump scare this has would only ever scare a 2-year-old with the reaction time of a walnut. You then walk around the house for a little bit until you run into a kitsune. I'm not sure what their name is, what their deal is with wanting the engines trapped in this game. I don't know what's happening at all. All I know is that there are 2 endings here. If you follow the advice and enter the phrase at the console at the warehouse like I told you to, you get the really useful engine ending, the good ending, where the souls are freed from the engine's bodies and can live on in their regular bodies. I'm not exactly sure how this works, if it's meant to be a video game about talking trains. The bad ending is you can't get away, and this is achieved by skipping the warehouse area and not entering the phrase. The kitsune will tell you a story about a jester before teleporting you to a game simply called You Idiot, where there's nothing to do but read the end of the jester story, walk around a ruined palace, and the kitsune is the sum. Again, I don't really see what the point of this is. I also don't see why this couldn't be in the main game, because there's so much area to work with in this dead map. I didn't record this section on my first playthrough, so I will be giving some screenshots. With the plot of the game out the way, let's pick it apart. What does it do right and wrong? I can think of only one thing it does right. It at least feels somewhat like an old game, aesthetically at least. I do think it's too dissimilar to the PlayStation 2 game it's based on to feel exactly right. For the most part, it gets the look of an old game right. Other than that, it's all cons. For a start, it doesn't really feel like an old game in the gameplay department. With the amount of clicking that needs to be done, the lack of any interesting cutscenes, large flat areas with no detail, and the physics of how the trains actually move, you can tell it's a Roblox game made by an edgy teenager who wouldn't know quality if it slapped them in the face. Things like Thomas's whistle not working until James's race, or his wheels only turning in a single direction because they couldn't be bothered to make an alternate animation script for reversing, also accentuate this low quality. On this topic of gameplay as well, the game being in widescreen doesn't help. The map itself, like I said, is incredibly bare and disinteresting. A 4:3 aspect ratio would help so much with hiding these empty zones, and making it feel more like a game you'd play on an old CRT TV. Secondly, the horror aspect is too blatant. Right from the start, you can tell it's a cheap game meant to get thrills from unexpecting children who are just expecting a regular Thomas game. Things like the cryptic message at the start telling you to enter the phrase, the way the engines speak about Topham and likewise how he speaks of them, the imagery of the characters being modified to look somewhat creepier, the sudden introduction of one chasing you down to what sounds like a cheaper version of the drowning theme from one of the Sonic games, the imagery in the point and click area displaying things like no vitals, and finally the kitsune staring you down at the end. end. Sure, this blatant horror can work well. For me, I think of franchises like Five Nights at Freddy's and Indigo Park, games I'd never played, and only really know on account of growing up in the 2010s and my furry friends being incredibly normal about Rambly, but from the little I've seen of those games, they tackle the blatant horror style far more tastefully. Finally, there's multiple plot points that are brought up at the start of the game and never followed up on. At the start of the game, it's implied that Topham doesn't trust his engines, which is the basis for 2 of the 4 tasks, those being to find Henry's coal and Bertie's missing parts. On the other end of the scale, it's clear the engines don't trust Topham, since Gordon explicitly tells you to go against Topham's words and talk to everyone. My thought when playing was that Topham would be the ultimate enemy of the game, and that it'd be him who you end up facing off against. But no, instead we get some masked edgelord who tries to be threatening but really isn't. Also, it's mentioned several times that there's something going on surrounding Percy's disappearance, but never is any backstory given to it. Henry mentions how Percy finally stood up to the Fat Controller, but never elaborates. He also mentions a corrupted rail line being at Percy's station, but again, nothing. To put it bluntly, there is no substance to this game whatsoever. It barely feels like the PlayStation 2 game it's trying to emulate. The aspect of doing train things in a game based on a franchise about trains is only present during the first half hour. The gameplay style changes at random towards the end, several plot points are mentioned with no payoff, and other plot points are paid off with no setup. If you're playing this for either a story or a game that's just fun, I'd suggest skipping this game. What do you mean I've got to pad out another 10 minutes of runtime? Oh, that's right, yeah, I said I was going to compare this to another game. Yeah, fuck it, let's do it. During my first playthrough, I couldn't help but notice several parallels between this game and another game that I really enjoy. A forgotten children's game on a legacy console, about the main character helping their friends, a looming feeling of something being wrong, and in-your-face horror. Where have I seen this before? Before I begin this section of the video, I will warn there will be major spoilers for Shipwrecked 64, so if you want to play it blind, I'd suggest clicking off this video and buying the game because it's absolutely worth the money. Also, I will be using footage from another user's playthrough for this section, as while I do love this game, I don't have the patience to record all that footage for a video on a Thomas the Tank Engine game. I'll link the videos I've used in the description. So how does a cheap game about talking trains relate to a beaver and his friends wrecking on an island? Well, Shipwreck 64 is another alternate reality horror game, based around a fictional character and franchise. You play as Bucky Beaver and spend your time assisting your friends in various tasks around the island of Nulla Terra, so the 4 of you can eventually return home. I could go on about Shipwrecked as the game itself is far more in-depth than meets the eye, but I'm going to break it down into the similarities between the 2 games, and hopefully explain why I'd suggest spending $7 on Shipwrecked instead of playing Thomas Adventure. On the surface, both games follow a very similar structure, arriving on an unfamiliar island and helping your friends with various tasks so you can eventually leave. On the surface, they're both very kid-friendly and light-hearted, but as you play for longer, you notice things feel off, and there are eventually blatant in-your-face horror elements, as I've already stated. Now, on to where Shipwrecked excels and Thomas Adventure fails. Thomas Adventure throws you straight into the main plot with little to no context besides people's souls are in the trains and they have different names and the fat man is bad, while Shipwrecked provides necessary context before throwing you in. Shipwrecked has 2 game modes, 2023 and 1997. Both play out differently, 2023 acting as the safe, as intended version with the horror aspects removed, whilst 1997 is the quote as discovered version with horror artifacts still intact. You must complete 2023 before beginning 1997, giving the user valuable time to get a feel for the controls, meet the characters they'll be learning about in the main story, and plus both game modes have an intro sequence which gives further context for the game and its story. Not only is the story structure similar, but the gameplay itself. Both start as third-person free roamers. Shipwrecked is different though in the way it doesn't randomly change styles towards the end. The sudden change in Thomas Adventure's game style, while only for a short section of the game, could have easily been continued in the free roam style if done right. Hell, the You Idiot game from the bad ending was done in third person, so why could the main game not have had the same treatment? Why did it have to be a point and click at the end? It's another of the many questions that this game brings up. Shipwrecked, on the other hand, remains third-person throughout its entire duration. It too becomes linear towards the end, but manages to keep the gameplay interesting, requiring things like making maps of the area you're exploring or memorizing locations of critical infrastructure, both for progression reasons and tactical advantages in chases when you will inevitably get chased down by the starlings. Shipwrecked is also a puzzle game, and many of these puzzles require the player to note down information, be it colour combinations, military alphabet, specific codes to unlock doors. I ended up making a notepad on my first playthrough, which unfortunately I couldn't find in time for this video, and it really did feel like writing down cheat codes for older games when developers still implemented those. And often on replays I'll find myself referencing this notepad, and I'll sometimes write down new ones with only necessary information for optimal playthroughs with no nonsense. Another note on gameplay, I mentioned earlier how Thomas Adventure doesn't really feel like an old PlayStation game. It gets the look close enough, but playing it and seeing how everything moves, I can tell it's Roblox, even without knowing it's Roblox. Shipwrecked, on the other hand, if you'd shown me this without the context of this is an independently developed alternate reality game about fictional characters and a fictional franchise with elements of horror, I would have genuinely assumed this was an old Nintendo game, a hidden gem I'd never heard of. The character designs, low resolution textures, the inspiration from Super Mario 64 is clearly there, but it all comes together so nicely. I feel the need to clarify for anyone new to the channel, I'm a 2006 baby. I was raised on the Xbox 360 and Nintendo Wii, so I don't have any nostalgia for the PS2 or N64. I just think Shipwrecked is really well made. The games are very different in the lore department as well. Thomas Adventure is incredibly vague about its lore. Questions like, what did the engines do to deserve their fate of being turned into engines? Why did the force that turned them into trains in the first place pick trains of all things? Who the hell is the Kitsune at the end and what is her deal? And why is the Fat Controller evil besides clickbait come to mind? While Shipwreck hands everything to you, the major things are uncovered as the story continues, while you might miss out on small things and only uncover them through future playthroughs. Seriously, the lore for Shipwrecked runs so deep that it could easily fill a multiple hour long video. I'm certain it already has. Do I also need to mention that there's a sequel in the works which is going to continue the lore even further? I'm actually friends with Squeaks the Corgeh, and I have playtested a small section of Hotel Investigation 09 back when it was still going to be HTML based. I won't share anything from this session because I don't want to spoil anything, and also I didn't take screenshots because I'm not that fucking geeky. But all I'll say is that it's shaping up to be an amazing continuation of what Shipwrecked has set up, both gameplay wise and lore wise. Finally, there's the endings to both games. Thomas Adventure ends on a point-and-click screen where the most stressful thing you do is try to figure out where the spots to click are. There's only two outcomes, neither of which are very fulfilling. You either save a bunch of trains you had no time to form a bond with, or get yelled at by an edgelord in a kitsune mask for something you didn't even know you did. Not exactly the thrilling adventure you want to go on, is it? There are about to be major spoilers for the ending of Shipwrecked, so I suggest clicking off now if you want to be surprised. Gone? Alright, let's get on with this. After finishing at Lair 4 and evading wrecks, you find yourself wandering through the Stitch Caves, listening to audio tapes from the development of Shipwrecked, finally meeting the Husk, who you need to catch in order to complete the game. It becomes a mad dash around Nulla Terra with all the starlings chasing after you in an attempt to hide what lays beneath the surface of the game's initial harmless intentions. The sequence that precedes the chase ends with Bucky leaping from an apartment building, paralleling the death of Connor Thomas, the lead developer from Corgeh Games, seemingly having grown sick of what they'd learned and unable to cope. It does seem to end on a more wholesome note, revealing that the efforts to restore Shipwreck were done by his son Patrick Thomas, as a way to honour his father's work and try to have him remembered in a slightly nicer light. It shouldn't surprise you that with how much content Shipwreck has to offer, there are multiple endings. I've just described the true ending, but there's also the good, bad, hero and confuse endings. Apparently there's several other endings that I didn't even know existed. I'm not going to bother naming them. But I think you get my point. There really is an incentive to replay. And since playthroughs can last for hours sometimes with how in-depth you actually have to get, it's not surprising that this game is so well received. Well, I went off track a long time ago. Let's loop back around to my original point. To put it into shorter terms, Thomas Adventure is lazy, banking off its use of already established characters to bring in most of its player base rather than telling an actually good story. The only questions it leaves you with is, what was that one guy's deal? Shipwrecked is a genuine homage to classic gaming with a sick twist, with a long, deep story that keeps you wanting more, and since it actually gives you reasons to replay, it will continue to give you more. I know the internet, and I know my haters. I know someone's going to watch this entire video and say, this is cool, but you're just glazing Shipwrecked because you have a crush on Bucky, and you're bashing the Thomas game because you hate Thomas the Train and you're racist. Let me put it to you like this, mate. If you want a genuinely interesting story, with new characters and concepts you'd never heard of, and it continues to give you more when you look back at it, buy Shipwrecked. If you want to waste an hour of your life on a game that won't really give you anything in return, a game that leaves you dissatisfied with your overall play experience, a game which you are only attracted to because it's based on a character that you grew up with, play Thomas Adventure. So, how the fuck do people end these? Do I just, like, say shit that I want to do for the channel? In that case, well, this is a bit of a new video for me. I don't think I'll do any more gaming videos like this, aside from the occasional filler to say I'm not dead. I do want to get some more railway modelling stuff done this year, but I have so many projects to get through it's not even funny. So, at some point I'll do a video on the streamlined castle, because that's been waiting for one for over a year. I have loads of other projects in the background that need doing, and those will be shown off as they come and go. I do at some point want to do a big collection video showing off all of my 00 stuff that's in presentable condition, or stuff that's projects which is far enough along in development that I'm happy to show them. I know there's going to be some kid in the comment asking about my Roblox game. That's dead. I'm not developing it anymore. I don't want to do Roblox shit anymore. Fuck Roblox. I say as I've just made a 20-minute video about a Roblox game. Me and my life, am I right? Right, well, I guess I'm just gonna leave it here then. Bye-bye!